You don't have a name. You have a price. You don't have a name. You have a value. It's written on parchment you will never read, because no one ever taught you how. A number in silver coins, a note in the margin of a transaction, listed beside livestock and sacks of grain purchased on the same day. That is what you are. That is what you weigh. And the most unsettling part? This did not happen in some distant, ancient civilization, not in pharaonic Egypt, not in the Roman Colosseum. It happened in Christian Europe, in the 9th century, only a few generations removed from the kings and cathedrals you studied in school. Welcome. Here's the question that will follow you for the next 20 minutes. How could a civilization that built monuments to the love of God also sustain one of the most active slave markets in the known world? The answer begins with a single word, a word you still use today, a word that appears in history books, legal language, and ordinary conversation. The word slave. It comes from Slav, from the peoples of Eastern Europe, regions that are now Poland, Ukraine, the Czech lands, the Balkans. Between the 7th and 10th centuries, those territories became one of the largest human supply zones on the continent. Frankish traders, Norse raiders, Arab merchants, Venetian intermediaries. They arrived with chains prepared. They left with people. So many people were captured, so consistently, that an ethnic name became a generic term for a human being turned into property. Imagine that. Your people's name becoming synonymous with captivity. The day your life ends. Picture yourself in a village east of the Elbe River. You don't know the year. Years don't structure your world. Seasons do. Planting, harvest, winter. Smoke rises from your home. You hear your children. Then something else. Hooves. Shouting. A language you don't recognize. Before your mind fully understands what's happening, your previous life is already over. What follows is not theory, not abstract history. It is cold stone beneath bare feet, iron against skin. The smell of ships crossing the Mediterranean carrying human cargo. Medieval slavery was not a historical accident. It was a system, designed carefully, a normal business. Between the 8th and 11th centuries in Western Europe, buying and selling people was not hidden. It was not shameful. It was ordinary, like selling wool, like purchasing wheat. There were markets, trade routes, legal frameworks. To understand how this was possible, you have to understand something fundamental about medieval thinking. Freedom was not considered universal. It was a status. It could be inherited, lost, negotiated, sold. Medieval law did not begin with the assumption that a person was free. It began with hierarchy. And in that hierarchy, some people simply had no ground beneath them. If your parents were enslaved, you were born enslaved. No exception, no appeal. Just as a noble inherited a title, you inherited bondage. An Anglo-Saxon will from the 10th century list enslaved individuals with the same detached tone used to divide furniture. So many to the eldest son, so many to the local church, so many to relatives. Human beings distributed like objects. The church and the contradiction. Here is where simple narratives collapse. The Christian church taught that all souls were equal before God. Yet in practice, its stance on slavery functioned comfortably within the system. Enslaving baptized Christians? Problematic. Enslaving pagans captured in war? Acceptable. Children born into slavery? Permitted. Monasteries, those centers of prayer and learning, own slaves. Imagine it. A monk bent over a manuscript illuminated by candlelight, copying words about divine mercy. 30 meters away in the courtyard stands a man who cannot leave, ever. Both realities existed at once. The trade routes of flesh. Slave routes crossed Europe like arteries. Jewish merchants documented in Carolingian records connected northern markets to Islamic caliphates in the south, where demand for Slavic captives, especially young men, was constant. They became soldiers, servants, administrators. Venice, now celebrated for its beauty, built part of its early wealth on this commerce. Its ports smelled of salt water, wet timber, and something else no travel guide mentions: human transit. In the north, Viking traders romanticized the day, relied heavily on slave trading as a steady source of income. Dublin, in the 9th and 10th centuries, became one of the largest slave markets in Northern Europe. People captured in England, Ireland, Scotland, transported in ships designed for speed, not comfort. What was a day like? Not the laws, not the trade networks. A single day, before dawn, before you can even distinguish the color of your hands. You are awake, not by choice. Your body remembers consequences even when your mind doesn't name them. You sleep in a corner, a stable, an outbuilding, a kitchen that still holds a trace of last night's heat. Your blanket smells like the animal it once covered. The straw beneath you keeps the imprint of your body. That shape in the straw is the only thing you truly possess. Not all slavery looked the same. Medieval slavery wasn't uniform. A domestic slave in a noble household might develop specialized skills. Cooking, craftsmanship, literacy. Those skills could provide practical protection, not legal protection. Never legal protection, but practical value. An agricultural slave, by contrast, pushed a heavy wooden plow from sunrise to exhaustion. The medieval plow was iron and wood, and it demanded everything from the human body behind it. What did you eat? Carolingian administrative records detail rations assigned to agricultural slaves, fixed portions of bread, occasional legumes, meat rarely, usually during intense harvest periods. Not generosity, efficiency. A working body that doesn't eat cannot produce. Economic logic accomplished what ethics did not require: resistance and agency. Here's a fact that disrupts the stereotype. Many enslaved individuals bought their freedom. They saved coin from permitted side work. They waited. They calculated. Some succeeded within years, others after decades. Many died trying, but the effort itself reveals something powerful, something no system fully extinguishes. There are also records of complaints filed with church authorities. Collective pressure against abusive masters. They were not silent tools. They were human beings searching for millimeters of space in a structure designed to erase them. The transition that wasn't freedom. Between the 10th and 12th centuries, open slavery gradually declined in Western Europe. Historians call it a transition, but it was not liberation. It was reclassification. The slave became the serf. A serf was legally bound to land, could not leave without permission, could not marry freely without permission, could not appeal beyond the Lord's court without permission. Children inherited the condition. The Lord could sell the land, and with it, the people attached to it, legally distinct from slavery. Practically, for someone who could never walk away, the difference was technical. Medieval jurists could explain the distinction in detail. But if you asked a person working 3 unpaid days a week on another man's field, watching their children inherit the same status, the answer would not be philosophical. A system that outlived the Middle Ages. Serfdom in parts of Eastern Europe lasted until the 19th century. In Russia, it was abolished in 1861, the same year Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in the United States. Photography existed. Railways existed. The system was not ancient. It was modern enough to be photographed. The words we still carry. Consider the word villain. Today it means the antagonist, the immoral figure. But it comes from villainous, the inhabitant of a rural estate, a serf. Elite contempt transformed a social class into a moral insult, and that insult survived into modern language. We still repeat it, unaware of its origin. The real question: how did Christian Europe sustain this system for centuries? Because it had internal coherence. It made hierarchy feel natural. It framed freedom as earned privilege, not inherent right. It generated wealth that built cathedrals, armies, crusades. The stained glass windows do not show the backs that lifted the stones, but those backs are there, in every wall, in every arch. The most disturbing part: the people inside the system did not see themselves as monsters. They believed they were participating in the natural order, which forces an uncomfortable question. 500 years from now, which of our current normal structures will look just as self-evidently unjust? which words we casually use today will carry insults whose origins we no longer remember. History does not end. It transforms. And every era believes its logic is permanent until it isn't.